0612, fixing the tax levy for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Mr. Gibson has made the motion, it's been seconded by Mr. Palmer. It's now for discussion.
That's where your pennies get divided.
Well, Mayor,
That's where your pennies get divided among the funds.
So it'll be 267.4 cents.
we can increase it.
Yes, sir. That'd be an increase of 34 cents, I believe, is that correct?
34.67.
34.
We spent a lot of time on this to get the budget to this point, and we're trying to get it passed through a month earlier. But before, I feel like, just speak for myself, before I would be comfortable with looking at doing a 34 almost 34.5 tax increase, I'm just thinking we need to look at this and make the recommendation we take it for one more budget draft day, that we don't pass this as is this month's meeting, and that we try to get this down some any way that we can. Because this kind of break of time has been the longest time from draft to draft that we've had with it, and as, I kind of sat and looked at it and some of it and stuff. I can't in good faith say that we've cut this in every way that we could. I feel like that and at minimum, even if we walked away at 34.67 cents at the end of the one last draft, we at least could say that we've met to exhaust every option with this, because there's some things in this I feel like we could go back and revisit. It's easy to look at them as individual pieces at the time when you talk about it and the need, and I know everybody has a need, but when you're talking about looking at it in a collective whole, this 34.67 is just, in my opinion, is too much to do in 1 year at this point in time.
I echo what Commissioner Gibson says. I live in probably one of the poorest districts in the county. I've heard a lot of input from people from different walks of life about, 34 cents on top of everything else. I will echo what he said about revisiting this. I said at the very beginning that we may not be able to give everybody what they want. That's just what it is right now.
But you all realize that you passed the budget last time. Sure do. And if you're gonna fund it, then you're gonna have to come up with the money to fund it.
That's why I'm suggesting we bring it back up to revisit everything that we're funding, because of the collective total of what that bill is looking to. And I understand your government creates funds in one way. It's not a business that we get opportunity based off sales or things like that. There's only one way that we generate revenue. And I just think we might be biting off too much than we can chew in 1 year if we're having to raise revenue by 34.67 cents. I mean, it's just my opinion for what it's worth.
So,
But when you're looking at, and I don't want to compare us to surrounding areas, but it looks like everybody's on the same page. I mean, when you look at, I think Rogersville's proposing to do 35, Washington County's doing 30, somebody else is doing, so, I mean, we've worked hard on this budget.
Well, you also have to realize that 18 cents of that is the sheriff's department, 10 cents of that is the bridge. So you're 28 cents before you even start looking at anything else.
I agree with what Commissioner Gibson says. It needs to be looked at and discussed. I didn't know you do third district. I thought my district was fourth. I've not had no one supporting this at all. They're telling me the same thing. Utilities that code is too much. And that's was my vote last month that's reflected. I hate to say this, Ronnie, you're not gonna like it, but I've had a lot of people tell me that we need to revisit the sheriff department. I mean, it's just everything is going up right now, and people are stretched thin as it is.
All thing I can say to that, Robbie, is if we can any way we are to jeopardize the safety and well-being of the citizens, the schools, my staff and inmates. They won't rely on me, rely on you all. If I don't have the people, I can actually call and protect people, and I keep the officers in the school. I've lost 3 since the last time y'all went in.
Because of the pay or what, Sheriff?
Yes, sir. I got one for Churchill today, see that me. His dad was just sitting right in here. 3 years experience out the door. I lost 1,100, over 1,100 hours of experience. You can't replace that.
So, hearing what you all are saying, we did have some marathon budget hearings to try to put this proposal together. And as I remember, we went through this budget piece by piece. A lot of these things where we're allocating money passed with a majority, at least some of it unanimously. And as we went through that budget, the one common thing that I tried to lead the committee to think about is if you're going to vote to spend the money, you've got to vote to find the money. And we did that. And I realized that this is a huge ask. It is a big ask. And I've heard I've had the same calls, I've heard the same conversations that everyone is having. The problem that we're having, though, is that we are not immune from inflation. We are not immune from rising costs. And while the Social Security Administration over the last 4 or 5 years has increased monthly pay for Social Security recipients, which is not a lot anyway, I get that. But it's went up 22%, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years because of the rate of inflation. Average income for Hawkins County citizens has not gone up enough. It hasn't gone up enough to keep up with inflation. But according to the Census Bureau, it's went up about $4,000 a year over the last 4 or 5 years. Or, pardon me, it's went up about $4,000 spread out over a 4 or 5 year period. Thirdly, we knew these things were coming. We've known these things were coming for a long time. And some of us have been trying to lead the commission to make small incremental steps along the way. The chickens have come home to roost. And if we continue to put this off, I know a 34-cent, 0.3467 is a lot to ask for. I know that. It's going to increase my taxes about $150 to $200 a year. But if we put this off again and continue, we can find some cuts, but it's just going to come back and get us later. And we're not going to be looking at a 34, we're going to be looking at more than that. So, we've already went through this process. We went through the budget hearings. We have the debates. We have the votes. Some things passed, some things didn't, some things, we needed to adjust. I'm not in favor of rehashing this. I know that it still has to go before the full commission, and I know that it's going to get hashed out there as well. And if it were to fail at the full commission, then we're going to have to punt and do it the next month. That's what's going to have to happen. But I'm one vote on the committee. So the only thing we can do is vote to send this forward, and if you do not want to send it forward, then it will fail. And if it fails, the only next step that I know that we can do, Mr. Gibson, as you suggested, is call together another budget hearing and try to figure out how to move it forward. And I think, Eric, you agree that if the levy fails, we'll have to have a proposal to present to the commission at some point. So if it fails today, if they vote to hold it today, then we'll have to do something.
The budget submission is all 3 documents. You can't pass any one or any 2 of them. National is not accepted. It has to be all 3. So
No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to put it off for a month is what will happen. If moving the tax levy forward fails in the budget committee today, it will put all 3 documents off for a month.
It's correct. They're all tied together. Yes.
So, anybody have any other questions about?
So, do you have areas of concern that you?
And I do have multiple areas of concern, and I guess we could hash that out today if we want to do that. I feel like one of them is definitely the 10 cents for the bridge. That's a big area of concern I have. I saw something, paperwork laying over here of the plan for Madden and Craig. But, you constantly hear the talk of wheel tax and how it got started and what it was. There's no expiration date on this 10-cent fund. It's going to be something that's just going to be paid and going forward. And looking at doing this project of replacing, rebuilding the bridge, I just feel like that there's still too many variables at that for one before we should look at levying $1 million worth of tax. I know you can only do it one time a year, at addressing the issue, but this is something that, what's changed in the reports from year over year of why we're suddenly so quick to address this versus the public outcry. And I know that's not going to be a very popular comment, but this magnitude of projects, we've got to look at every, under every rock, nook and cranny of what this looks like, how this is going to affect us. Have we exhausted all the options with the state, et cetera, before we're just looking at generating $1 million? That's one of my bigger concerns of it.
Have we heard anything else from the federal government or state government?
Talk to state reps who say that they're working on it. The way I look at it is, you can look at this report from Madden and Craig that says that by doing everything that's included in here, you can get that bridge up to about a 20-ton capacity and extend its life for up to 10 years. That is going to, that's going to cost about $1.5 million, which we don't have, and we're not going to get immediately from any source. And any source that we get is not going to fund that bridge 100%. They're going to look for a match. Federal government looks for at least a 20% match, and there are a lot of strings attached to that. We're talking to the governor about appropriations and so forth. If that happens, and you've mentioned that, yes, that 10 cents will, there's no rollback on that, but you look at the situation that the roads are in, the other bridges are in. We've got 5 bridges on list 1 that need to be fixed. There are a lot of road projects that need to be done. And if we have to end up paying for this ourselves, and I hope we don't, and please realize that I'm banging my head on every funding source that's out there. But if we end up paying for this ourselves and we have to do a bond issue, we're going to have to pay for that. That 10 cents, actually it's 8 cents, because 2 cents of that goes into we made the motion last time, 2 cents of it goes into the general capital project. But that 8 cents is going to be required to pay that bond issue. And we have to have the money from somewhere. So to go ahead and put it in place and get ahead of it, you've got school buses that are having to go an extra 30, 45 minutes. You've got a fire department that can't cross that bridge. And that's the urgency of it, Commissioner Gibson. That's the urgency of it. Apparently, some folks have known about this for a long time. I didn't know about it until it came up at a road commission meeting, or a road committee meeting, just a couple months ago. So, yes, there's public outcry, and yes, we need to have a bridge that's safe to cross. It's 10 tons now, and will be for a while if we leave it that way. But if we're looking at the repairs, and I thought that this was good news. I thought that 1.5 million to repair it and keep it, upgrade the weight limit and keep it in service for several more years. I thought that was good news versus spending $20 million to replace. And we don't know that 20 is going to do it. That's just a figure that's out there. And Madden and Craig is looking at what it would cost to do the whole replacement. But I asked for this basically. This report basically because Congresswoman Blackburn, or Senator Blackburn, was in town on Friday, and I wanted to be able to tell her what the progress was, and she was going to take this and take it back to the federal funding people and see what they could do. We're working on getting money, but it's just, you can't just run on it. You have to get ahead of it.
Eric, we've exhausted all of our interest built over ARPA and don't do with money
far as the ARPA money, you've got roughly about 350,000. You guys have tentatively already obligated that to finish your radio project for the fire departments. And then just speaking on the tax levy, even if you issue this tax levy, we go to the next meeting, you know, you still don't collect property tax until December or February for the most part. So if you put this off and prolong and decide ultimately this is still what we have to do, you're putting it off an additional year to pass it, but you're putting it off even farther yet to collect those funds for us to actually utilize them. So, you know, you guys have to do what you're comfortable with, but just be mindful of that when you delay the timeline, you may delay it even longer than what you intended to.
So, maybe an awkward point to bring up for you guys is, let's say that we pull the whole 10 cents off and we fund it just from whatever's in the fund balance. So how much statutorily do we have to have in the fund balance in order to meet the auditing requirements?
If you're talking about from your general capital projects, it's not a required fund, so there is no minimum. Obviously,
Not assigned fund balance.
well, you've got several fund balances. You've got fund balances per each fund. And the tax rate for this was going to create a new fund, which was going to create highway capital projects, which was going to be a capital projects fund that was limited to only doing road projects. You also have the general capital projects that has a fairly healthy fund balance, but it's taken us 6 years to grow to that point where we can actually be able to fund some projects. If you're talking about your general fund, you have the fund balance requirements there, which we're above what we need to have. But your general fund should be your operating budget. And when you take large-scale projects from your operating budget, it skews the numbers. It's very confusing. Everybody tries to look at the document. What does it take to run Hawkins County on an annual basis? That's why you run your large-scale projects through a capital projects fund. So,
And I understand that, but if we're gonna have a conversation about how we need to set the tax rate in order to finish all the projects that we have, that's where we have to look. You either spend the money that you have in your unassigned fund balance, or you generate it through tax rate. It's the only option we've got.
it is, and if you fund it through fund balance, we'll have a very tough conversation about tax rate next year. So we'll delay it a year.
How much is in our general unassigned fund?
In the general fund, 101, is that the question?
Yes.
Projecting to end this year, 13.4.
And I guess what Jason was asking is, what's the minimum you're comfortable with?
CTAS's recommendation is a minimum of 20% of your annual operating expenses for the following year. My recommendation is to not flirt with the minimum. I don't know why you want to be hovering around the minimum of the
Well, where are
requirement.
we at right now?
We're above that. Bear with me.
Something I'd like to pick up from my office on that point is we have no disaster fund. That's our disaster fund. If there's a disaster happens, when we declare a disaster, that's where we go for money.
And I know y'all got calls from all your constituents about conditions of roads, bridges, things like that. You know, this is a step toward helping that as well. The main calls I get, trash, roads, and that goes down from there.
Oh, we got business coming in. We're just waiting on Calvary to get here.
Yeah,
Keep in mind that revenue is not going to flow immediately. There's pilot programs where those companies come in, so you'll receive some benefit, but it takes time to receive the full benefit from those companies coming in here. 41% is the answer to your question earlier.
and we do have companies coming in, but just because Jeff announced it doesn't mean it's gonna be here tomorrow. It could be 5 years, to be here. Sorry.
I have no power.
And they're on a 90-10 pilot, so we're getting 10% of their taxes for 10 years.
So we're anticipating 25 partial production,
Right.
26 full production, but it's still construction. And quite often, construction doesn't go as planned.
So, you know, it's on the floor now. If you want to adjust it, you can amend it. And I will tell you that I'll be in favor of, if we can't fund it through a tax revenue, then I'll be in favor of using the general fund and unassigned balances. And I hate that's a terrible way to go, but that bridge has got to be fixed so that people can feel safe about crossing.
This highway capital project is 8 cents. Is that, just refresh my memory, that's the 8 cents for the bridge? And then after that,
That's the 8 cents toward road projects and 2 cents toward the general capital projects. That was decided at the last
The
budget.
initial 8 cents is going toward the bridge.
Yes.
Yes.
And then after the bridge, it roll over to its own highway capital project.
Well, it's always gonna be in its own.
Yeah,
But that main focus would be that bridge first, but as the mayor said, we have 5 other bridges that are on list 1, and you need a match still to unlock the state's money for that, so this will create us a path forward that we don't have such a logjam of bridges that are on that list.
And we've got roads that are crumbling and, you know, I hear about it every day.
Well, the issue that, you know, the other elephant we're looking at is that to do the detour around that bridge, you've got 2 roads up there that will not even hold the traffic now. So
Right.
you're gonna have to do something to get those roads in shape immediately if you detour around the bridge and don't do anything.
well, for the budget we passed included a significant raise to the highway department in the fund.
But that was equipment.
Required for maintenance effort or so.
I mean, but he said that that's what he could work with. I mean, like Jason said, it's, I mean, it's not ideal at all. Nothing about this budget is ideal. Our economy is not ideal. The way our federal government spends money on behind it is not ideal.
But those are all variables in our control.
Actually, they're all variables that control us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that and I told somebody just a little while ago, if you look at the budget as a whole, and then you look at what part of it we can actually control, it's very, very small. So if you want to start going through it, that's fine, but you're not going to make significant enough changes to not have a tax increase.
All right, so I think everybody's pretty well been heard. Is there going to be an amendment to this? And if not, we're going to go and vote on it. All right, seeing none, Ms. Sarah, will you call the roll, please?
Excuse me,
Yes.
Rogersville,
As presented, if nobody made any amendments, so it's going to be as presented.
Robbie Palmer,
No.
Danny Elvis,
No.
John Gibson,
no,
Nancy Barker,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
Tom Carr.
yes,
3 yes, 3 no, motion fails.
All right, so,
Just for clarification, that will still go across the street, it just won't go across the street with the support of the budget committee, correct?
I
Yeah,
mean,
it will be presented to the whole commission.
well, I mean, I think the way that I believe that we should move is if the budget committee failed it, then I don't know that I can present it. I mean, I know that we could just kind of do it anyway, but I've always tried to respect the committee's position, and it has officially failed. So we're gonna have to figure out something else now. Which means that as of right now, we could hear the budget. We're just not gonna have a way to fund it. I mean, we'll just have to.
Well, if you can't present this one, you can't present 11 or 10.
Right. That's correct. The wish of the committee is to pull together another budget hearing before June 24th, I mean, in the next week? Or how would you like to do that? If we could get another budget hearing together and maybe go through and find some areas to cut, we may still be, I would be okay presenting the tax levy if it passes the budget committee and the budget hearing before the full commission. So if we can do that this week, then we can hopefully knock that out. Would that be okay with anybody?
Remember, we have to sunshine.
Oh, yeah, what's that one of those?
And we're closed on
On
Wednesday.
5.
They never say.
Over 3 is not, or 2.
recess.
So if we noticed it tomorrow, could we do it on Friday?
I could be Friday or
Recess. Recess. Recess, the meeting is done.
Mayor, can we schedule the next one for the charge of the complaints? Or to accommodate the citizens that want to participate?
Chair.
Can you do that, Mr. Chairman? upstairs for
The
the,
change.
Make sure it's available.
Couldn't just do it in the commission room.
we have to accommodate what was here today.
Oh, the big commission room?
Instead of the courtroom, could we do a commission room?
Are you talking about where?
Well, we
Where
met.
our leader upstairs.
Just
We
a little
met
bit.
upstairs before.
I think the regular commission room would be fine.
We have no air conditioning, guys, remember that.
So again,
We have no air conditioning.
oh, no air conditioning there. Is there air conditioning in the chamber?
There is, but we have no recording equipment. Of course, we can bring little recorders, but we have no microphones or no recording equipment. We would have a microphone that the judges use and maybe the defense and tables, but not one for every.
You're talking about upstairs.
Upstairs in the,
That's just.
We didn't have anybody that overflowed this room today. I mean,
Yeah, we're having trouble with all that today.
Let's look at when we can do this. Is everybody okay with Friday morning?
We done by 11.
Can't do it on Friday morning.
I gotta be done by 11.
We got to know by that time, can't do it on Friday morning.
We can't get the sunshine about before then, you know.
Friday's going to be the day to do it. The only other option we could do is Monday before the commission meeting. It'll be a long day.
I can do that.
can we meet over here instead of the commission?
Well, first, we're going to do the commission meeting over there anyway, right?
We don't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 2 hours, no air conditioning's gonna be a lot better than 4 hours.
5:30. I'm looking at Monday before the commission meeting itself. Can we do that?
how much before the commission?
Well, I don't know, if we're gonna go and start kind of going through the budget, we're gonna need a couple of hours. So the commission meeting starts at 6. I mean, if we could start at 4,
I wouldn't start any later than 3.
if we start at 3, that'll be fine. And then just, if we get done in time, we can always recess and take a break.
I can do that.
Monday morning.
If we're gonna be here till 6, though, that's, we have a commission over there. We have a commission at 6.
I'm not sitting over there for 8 hours.
Let's shoot
go-
for 3.
Let's shoot for 3 on Monday, June 24th, to have one more budget hearing before it gets presented. Now, we also need to remember too, if we make a whole lot of changes, there's no way Eric's gonna get those turned around.
The budget on the floor will be as it's presented. I mean, any changes you make will be adjusted on the
Have to be
fly.
amended. Yeah.
Have to be amended. Otherwise, we start the process over completely, and we're gonna rerun it in the newspaper, and we're gonna rerun it to Nancy. I mean,
You know, and I get that, it, government sometimes is hard, and we're gonna do the best we can with what we have. So Monday, 3 o'clock in the county commission meeting room, we're gonna go back and look at what else we can do.
Sybil, is that okay with you and Larry? Is that okay with you?
3 o'clock Monday, Larry.
Yeah,
Sybil?
I guess. I'm not on the committee.
I'm not either, so it doesn't matter.
You what?
We're not on the committee, it doesn't matter what we
You
think.
got elected the same day we did.
I know.
All right.
Both just like,
Monday, the 24th at 3 p.m., to readdress the budget